On this episode of Handmade in the Heartland, we dive into the artistry of bladesmithing with expert craftsman Steve Watkins. We'll discover the meticulous process behind his custom-made knives, designed for both function and beauty. Explore Steve's unique approach, blending traditional techniques with modern enhancements, with some knives even crafted from historic battleship steel. Get ready for an inspiring look at the intersection of art, science, and craftsmanship, and learn how his knives spark conversations and pride among their owners. So, sit back and immerse yourself in the world of Steve Watkins' exquisite knife-making journey in this episode of Handmade in the Heartland. Steve Watkins honed his skills in North Carolina for over 2 decades, but his journey began much earlier in the Midwest, where he now continues his craft in Cape Girardeau. Immersed in the outdoors with his father, Steve developed a deep appreciation for the mechanics and aesthetics of combining wood and steel.
And from that love of being outside and tools, and that love of tools that my dad passed along to me, I started shoeing horses when I was out of school. You're not sure what you're going to do, and you do a few different things. And so I started shoeing horses right out of high school and did that for several years. And that taught me how to use a hammer, how to swing a hammer, how to move metal with a hammer. I didn't love shoeing horses, but I really enjoyed on the weekends when I wasn't doing anything else, making things with steel. So I started dabbling in blacksmith work. Fast forward 20 years later, that turned into a career in training horses. And after I had enough of training horses, I picked my tools back up and I wanted to re-engage with my tools. I wanted to make something.
While every project is different, they all start with selecting the right materials and having a vision for the end result. Steve begins by preparing the metal. He selects the pieces he wants to work with and then cuts it into strips. Once the metal is cut, he measures each piece to ensure it's the correct size for the knife he's making. The number of layers depends on the knife being made. After cutting the metal to the correct size, he removes any rough edges and then welds the strips together. This holds the layers together, allowing the metal to heat evenly. This welded collection of layers is called a billet. He also adds a metal rod to be used for handling during the forging process. As a final preparation, he soaks the metal in diesel fuel, which Steve says works like a flux to ensure the metal has the carbon needed to bond properly when heated in the forge. When the forge reaches temp, about 2,200 degrees, he then inserts the metal into the forge to start the forging process.
Burn that off. That's it. Now, it's burning the diesel off, so it's smoking that off. It'll cause a little soot between the layers or whatever, which helps protect it. And then when you see it looks black compared to the inside. When that is the same color as the inside of the forge where all the temp.
I'm an engineer, and no matter what I become interested in, then I have to reverse engineer it. So I want to know how sauces are made. I want to know how this works. I want to know how that works. I want to know how your tools work. How do you use them? So I became fascinated in chef's knives. And when I picked my tools back up, I wanted to start making knives. I'd made a couple when I was younger, but they were rough. And I wanted to understand how chef's knives work in particular, and how knives work and how you made them and how they come together. So I took a course in Western North Carolina with 2 of the top makers in the world, really, in the country for sure, and in the world, Bert Foster and Jason Knight. And they taught me how to make knives. And then I took the knowledge of making traditional knives, bowies, hunting knives, swords, daggers, things like that, and kind of re-engineered that into how to make a chef's knife with those same skills. And then I had friends who owned restaurants, and so I started connecting with chefs and putting knives in their hands and asking them what they liked, what they needed, and trying to figure out what it was that makes the chef knife function.